Welcome to the Vet Med Wellness and Leadership Podcast, where we discuss central challenges vet med leaders face, such as burnout, stress, and difficult interactions with clients and staff, just to name a few. In each episode, you will hear about actionable solutions that you can apply to your practice and invitations to connect with fellow leaders who are passionate about improving the wellness of the vet med profession. By subscribing, liking, commenting, or sharing this podcast, you are helping more veterinary professionals find the resources shared in these episodes. Thank you in advance for listening and supporting this show. I hope you enjoy it. All right. Hey, everybody. It's Crystal here. And our guests today are Dr. Chmiel and Dr. Willerton, who co-founded MySimplePetLab in 2019. MySimplePetLab is an animal health company that operates a national veterinary diagnostic laboratory. Their mission is to provide pets, pet parents, and veterinarians with pet-approved tests and care products that make home health care simpler and more accessible. Together, they have over 50 years of veterinary clinical, business, and industry experiences that they draw from to bring these new home healthcare options for dogs and cats to life. Today, we are going to talk about some of the common challenges vet med professionals are facing and how MySimplePetLab works to solve these problems. As always, we are going to have a special focus on wellness challenges and solutions that are always top of mind on this podcast. And finally, we are going to talk about how MySimplePetLab supports their team. So Dr. Chmiel and Dr. Willerton, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. I hope we can start with maybe a little icebreaker. And since there's two of you, I'm going to give you options. Option one would be, tell us about your pets. And option two would be, tell us what are some of your favorite aspects of working in vet med. Dr. Chmiel, I'm putting you on the spot first.
Oh gosh, I'm going to take the easy one. I'm going to go with the pets. We have, my wife and I have two little dogs, two little Brussels Griffons that are both wonderful and terrible at the same time. Really makes us question ourselves as parents. And over COVID, we ended up getting two rabbits. I grew up with rabbits, but I got fooled because we got these two mini laps, and I got fooled by the word mini. I just imagined they were going to be really small, but they're full-size rabbits, 8 pounds each, and they started off in a corner of my office, and over time have taken over my entire office. So now I'm an addendum to their pen, basically.
That's great. Oh, how about you, Dr. Willerton?
I'm going to answer the same question, talking about pets. Let's see. I have two litter mates that are Brussels Griffon mixes. And then I also have an Irish setter that needed to be rehomed that my husband brought home unexpectedly a few years ago. So we have 3 dogs, and then we have 2 guinea pigs that my kids enjoy. Guinea pigs are, at least my guinea pigs, are very opinionated and demanding. They yell at me constantly to meet their needs. So, but yeah, so we're a house full, 3 dogs, 2 guinea pigs, and 4 kids. So 4 kids. So.
Oh yeah, guinea pigs have that very assertive squeak, you know?
Yes. Yes.
When I lived in Vienna back in, what year was it? 2012 to 15. I also had 2 rabbits and 2 guinea pigs. It started as 2 rabbits. There was a lop, and then a dwarf bunny, and then it expanded into 2 guinea pigs, and it was fabulous because it gets very cold there in the winter. It was nice to have pets you could have indoors, and they were very content and happy to occasionally chip the curtains.
That's right.
Oh, love it. So I'd love to start off with your origin story. How did you end up here? Give us the background.
Well, I'll start, Dennis, and then I'll get us started. Then you can take the kind of second half of the story, if that's okay. Okay. So Dennis and I have known each other for many, many years because we were in the same VMG group. And so we had known each other in a business sense for a long time and had always talked about doing something entrepreneurial together. We enjoyed that entrepreneurial mindset and wanted to explore ways that we could help the profession. And so we started just brainstorming on what are the problems in our profession and how could we potentially help. And I'll turn it over to you, Dennis, to take it from there.
Yeah, that ultimately led us to diagnostics. We were watching, what was happening in human healthcare. Ancestry.com in the 90s, 23andMe in the early 2000s. Fast forward to today, and there's Cologuard, right? There's Color, there's Everlywell, there's all sorts of, even now you can see commercials, right, of various tests in human healthcare that you can either collect a sample and perform the test in home and get results right there, or collect a sample and send it to a professional laboratory where you can get results back directly and share those results with a virtual or local physician. And we really came to believe that this was a necessary evolution for veterinary healthcare as well. And we'll talk in a bit more about some of the the workload issues and staffing issues that the profession really is challenged by, and not just veterinary medicine, but human healthcare as well. And there's real opportunities, we thought, to help alleviate some of that pressure by being able to let consumers collect pet samples from home, send them to a professional veterinary diagnostic laboratory, get results back directly, and be able to share those results with a local or virtual veterinarian. And that was really the idea that kicked us off back in 2019.
Interesting. So what were some of the bumps along the way when you first had this idea? You're taking it from idea to implementation. What was that like?
So many bumps.
Yeah.
Big bumps, little bumps. I will say that we started before COVID, and that was a significant difference. Back then, while some of these other products, like even on the veterinary side, like Embark and Base Paws and Wisdom Panel, some of these genetic tests were already out there in market. It was still, for the consumer, the awareness of from-home testing was still really low, even on the human side. That was demonstrated by some of the market research we did back then. But when COVID happened, suddenly everyone became aware that you could actually collect a sample and run the test on your kitchen countertop, or with the COVID antigen test, or send the sample out, like the COVID PCR test, to the lab and then get results back. So coming out of COVID, what before was really more of a headwind for us, trying to explain, this is going to be a thing. Like, we could actually, like, pet parents could do this. To coming out of COVID, where it's very easy to have that conversation of, like, because everyone knows what that kind of testing is now. I don't know, Nancy, if you'd share anything different.
Yeah, we, Dennis and I are both seasoned practitioners and understand the medicine and the practice end of things. But in starting MySimplePetLab, we learned about so many things outside of veterinary medicine. Everything from our platform is built around proprietary technology, and developing the technology to developing packaging, just everything involved in our product. There were so many things that were new that we learned along the way. So it's definitely been a mind
even branding, right? Like
project.
Our name changed, our branding changed. We all evolved into 2.0 versions of everything.
I can't help myself but to say this. I was maybe saving it for later, but I can't wait. Which is that I often will meet people in the veterinary profession who are considering leaving the profession. And I have this cycle in mind. My company is called Full Circle Lab, because I believe there's this circle that occurs where we enter veterinary medicine with passion and drive, and we're so in love with medicine and animals. And then somehow people slide to the bottom of that circle, or they're burned out and apathetic, and whatever may have happened, they want to leave in various forms. And I find that having these kinds of role models, like you all talking about how you kind of went rogue and did something different, can be inspirational for people that might feel like maybe clinical practice isn't working for me, but I still feel so passionate about the industry. I still want to help pets. I still want to be in medicine, but maybe I just don't know the pathway forward. And to know that there are veterinary professionals out there who may be doing something different. They're not in clinical practice. They're not in the path that we have maybe first envisioned when you were in vet school is kind of exciting. And I noticed this pattern too of veterinary professionals are good at learning. That's part of your story, is that you could walk into something new, you didn't know how to do it, you try something, you innovate, you learn something new, something fails, you learn from that, and that you just keep adapting your process as you go to the point here we are today with MySimplePetLab. Yeah, it's really exciting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And evolving your career, doing something, getting good at it, and then figuring out what the next thing is very motivating for a lot of veterinarians, and really, really helps with burnout, whether that next thing might be mastering new surgical skills, or it might be opening your own practice. I mean, it doesn't have to be leading the profession, but they're, moving to the next challenge, and there's always a new challenge down the line, I think helps a ton with burnout and stress.
Absolutely. Yep. The research has shown that the ability to progress and continue to evolve. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And I had a mentor early on in my career, a veterinarian who was very encouraging about just, finding those things within clinical practice that I was passionate about, and really trying to, either recognize, like, what do I have sort of a natural tendency to be passionate about and good at, and what are those things maybe that I don't, and try to lean in those directions where I'm passionate. And I think, too, with the hindsight of a longer career as a veterinarian, I've really come to appreciate, I know Nancy has too, just the variety of things that the veterinarians can do. And being, I spent 8+ years with Zoetis, for example, and part of my career was being in marketing, right? Like, just areas that, I just would have never expected to be in or contribute significantly in looking at it from coming, out of veterinary school, but just being open-minded to opportunities that are, both within clinical practice and outside of clinical practice, I think can help veterinarians that may not be, finding the joy that, they want to have maybe in their current position.
There are many ways to be a veterinarian.
Yeah, it's such an exciting message. I really appreciate that. I'd love to focus a little bit now on some of the challenges that you were seeing in the veterinary profession as you were developing MySimplePetLab.
My background is in clinical practice. I owned and operated animal hospitals here in the Denver area. And what I was seeing, especially in the kind of last half of my career in private practice, was just that stress levels were increasing like crazy. And there's a lot of reasons for that. It's a job where in many instances, you have a start time, but you really don't know what your end time is for your day. And that's along with the veterinarians and the support staff surrounding them. It's just by nature a very stressful job, really. And you add to that shortages of veterinarians, shortages of technicians, and having hospitals that aren't fully staffed, it's just kind of a pressure cooker that was developing, and we really wanted to try to what can we do to help veterinarians and their support staff do as much as they can outside of the four walls of an exam room, and we started to think a lot about how can we help. But Dennis, I'll let you comment too.
Yeah, if you think over the history of maybe the last 50 years of the profession, we have a healthcare delivery model that worked I think, really well, like in the 60s and the 70s and maybe into the 80s. But, which is really based on, I'm going to share with you everything you need to know about your pet and do everything healthcare related to your pet in this 15 or 20 or maybe 30-minute appointment once a year, right? And over time, right, medicine has evolved and there's a lot more vaccines. There's a lot more education to do on nutrition and behavior, right? Like we treat pets differently. Now they're part of the family. They're not just, out in the backyard in a doghouse, right? From the barn to the bed, basically. And so there's so many more diagnostics that, can be done. There's so many more medication options. And so the pressure, I think, on the profession to try to continue to now say everything you need to say in 30 minutes once a year is really impossible, right? And so, it made us think a lot about it in combination then with, as we move here, post-COVID and this time of shortages that Nancy just spoke of, you have to really take a step back and think about, like, what are the things that have to be done patient side that can only be done in that, say, brick and mortar clinic, for example? And what are the sorts of things that can be lifted out and done in advance of the exam? And what are the things that could be lifted out and done after the in-person exam that could help to sort of relieve some of that, operational and educational communication pressure that's on the staff in that sort of hectic environment of the exam rooms. And we can talk more about what that looks like. But as an example, like in human healthcare, right? Like your physician wants you to have your blood work done in advance of your annual visit. And the reason for that is because she doesn't want to sit there in your annual exam and speculate around what your blood work may or may not say, then send it out, and then have to call you back and talk to you about it afterwards, right? That's very inefficient. It's much more efficient to have your labs done in advance of the visit so that you can have a face-to-face conversation with your physician about those labs and then do the follow-up planning from there if that is needed.
That makes so much sense. Well, I'd love to have you all flesh out more of how MySimplePetLab works from, maybe start from the consumer perspective. Me as a consumer, I'm just imagining I have 3 kitty cats here in my house. I have one that's has a variety of medical issues, and I could see from a consumer perspective as a pet parent being very relieved that right now I go in, probably once a month for a technician to do a blood draw, to go and get that blood, to send it out, just to have consistent measurements throughout time. So let's start there with, how does MySimplePetLab work for consumers, and then weaving it into how it works for veterinary professionals.
So I go first, Dennis?
Sure. Like doing to the consumer piece.
I would imagine that your 3 cats do not like to get in the carrier and go to the vet, if I had to guess. Most cats are not psyched about that.
Only my tomcat. He's like,
oh, yeah,
anywhere because I'm a tomcat. And the other 2 are like, you're crazy.
That's funny. So MySimplePetLab really helps from a pet parent standpoint, really helps with access to care, whether that's your cat, the other 2 don't like to go to the hospital. What can you do from home? Maybe you aren't able to take off from work to get to an appointment. Maybe you don't have transportation. Maybe you live in a part of the country where there aren't a lot of veterinarians close by, and it's really hard to get in. You can't get an appointment. So MySimplePetLab really tries to help you do as much as you can from home, whether it's, as Dennis mentioned, testing prior to a visit. Maybe it involves recheck testing from home after a visit. Maybe it's having a nice compilation of 4 or 5 things in a care kit that you can do to help with your pet's condition while you're waiting for that visit that takes a few days before you can get in. So that's kind of how we're looking at it from the consumer standpoint. And I'll let Dennis address kind of how we're look at it from the veterinary standpoint.
Yeah, and when we started, it was really about trying to to build the technology and build the products to be just direct to consumer only to start with. But where we are today is where we had intended to get to right from the very beginning, which was integrated into the veterinary healthcare delivery and business model, importantly. And so on the animal health side, both our test and care kits. And today we have fecal or stool tests for dogs and cats. We have ear cytology tests for dogs, ear cytology tests for cats, and we have a skin cytology test for dogs. So these are all first response sorts of tests at the end of the types of tests that veterinarians do every day. They're, if a dog comes in or a cat comes in with an ear infection, like we know we're always supposed to do a cytology first. And after treatment, we're always supposed to do a cytology again. And these are all test types that make a lot of sense from the home environment. But when we, one of the things that we didn't anticipate back in 2019 was the need for care kits as well. And some of the feedback we got from the diagnostic test kits is like, great, I've got the test that they can access. I got it from Amazon. I sent that out. My dog's hurting, right? It's itching, it's shaking its head, scratching at its ears, and I can't get into my vet for 3 or 4 or 5 days. Like, what do I do? And so that was really the evolution of these care kits where we have a diarrhea care kit for dogs, an ear care kit for dogs, and a skin and itch care kit for dogs, and a first aid care kit for dogs as well. But it's really about what are these the things what could we put together in a kit with education and also really high quality products that veterinarians use. So these are the types of products that can they're as close to a prescription product as you can get while still being over the counter. But the types of things that you could do to give relief to your dog in these situations until you can get into the vet. And both these tests and these care products are really designed to work in the veterinary profession as well. And so as an example, using the recheck journey, say the dog comes in for an ear infection, that vet may do a cytology right then, send home treatment, but they also send the recheck test kit from MySimplePetLab home with the pet owner as well. And when the pet owner is done with treatment, and has right on there a sticker and it says what date for the pet parent to do the recheck test, pet parent sends in the recheck test from home. And then when the results are in, the veterinary team calls and they make a determination together whether or not that pet needs to come back in for the recheck. And if they do, great. Maybe that's 20% of the time they need to come back in, but 75, 80% of the time they don't. And that's, all that can be good for the pet parent and the vet.
A couple of things that are really important about how we designed the MySimplePetLab tests is the results are shared with the pet parent and the veterinarian at the same time. Just like your pediatrician, you see the test results for your children on your portal right away. The results are shared with the pet parent and the veterinarian right away at the same time in a way that the pet parent can understand, meaning that things are described, they know what you're testing for, they know what it means, and then they can have an educated discussion with their veterinarian about those results. The other thing that I really like about our testing process is we include evidence-based reporting, meaning that we take images of everything that we see on that particular sample that's included with the report. The pet parent really sees the value in the test when you do that, and then the veterinarian can actually see what we're seeing and reporting on.
Wow, so transparent. I really appreciate that about your process. If we put this underneath the microscope lens of wellness, so wellness challenges that we're seeing in vet med, can you speak to how MySimplePetLab helps alleviate some of those challenges?
Yeah, one way to think about that is take stool samples. For example, there's in a busy practice, there's lots of stool samples from dogs and cats that are brought in by pet parents every day. And what the staff has to do is take it from the container that it came in, whether the cool-up container or a bag or whatever it was, move it into a container that's appropriate, set up the acquisition of the accession form, and send it out to the reference lab, or they process it in-house. And for any one sample, not a big deal. But when you start doing 5, 10, 15, 20 samples a day, it just adds a lot of time. And arguably, those are activities that don't need to be done patient side, especially on the wellness front, where these are pets that are just having routine stool samples because it's part of their annual or biannual checkup. And so it's just a way to alleviate some of the time pressure that comes with added workload, right? And from a recheck standpoint, recheck exams are from a business perspective the least valuable appointments that a veterinary practice sees. One, because they bring in the least amount of revenue, but also they're the most missed appointments by clients. They're the most frequently canceled, often last minute, and they're the most frequent no-shows. So if those appointments, if they're canceled last minute or it's a no-show, it's a slot that somebody else was waiting for that couldn't get in. And if you could fill that with a wellness appointment or an initial illness appointment, arguably the perceived value will be higher for everyone, and the revenue will be higher as well. And so by being able to take and move some of those rechecks out from home, it allows for that staff to be able to see, to relieve some of the pressure that they have on these clients that are waiting to get in for these initial illness appointments. And no one wants to, no practice wants to push off their clients to urgent care or emergency clinics. And there's now fewer of them, it seems, because, through COVID, where, some closed. Also, wait times are high, expenses, of course, much higher. So all that can, or those are maybe a couple examples of how just the simplicity of just moving some tests from home before the appointment or after can help relieve some of the workload on the staff during the day.
And to save those appointment slots for things that really do need to be in the exam room and be seen in person. So you can, alleviate workload and help more pets.
Yep. I can really see the value in that. I know that so many veterinary professionals that I talk to, a lot of what they enjoy is having that time to really interact with their clients and patients and not feeling like they're behind all day long and playing catch up and rushing through. And also to be able to have more interesting cases when you have a whole day that's just filled with rechecks and monotony. I actually remember back in the day when I was a technician, one of the doctors I worked under, he pulled me aside and he said, "Hey kid, are you sure you want to be a veterinarian?" It's like, absolutely. He said, "Look around all day long, right? We're squeezing anal glands, we're popping vaccines. It's just really think about it." And I think it was his way of just showing that he was feeling kind of stuck in the day-to-day monotony and he had kind of wanted more. He said his brother was a dentist and he kind of envied his brother's position. But I think it just speaks to the need for variety and to have the time to really have the impact that feels very satisfying. And by exporting some of these services to allow more of that time to be freed up can be quite rewarding for veterinarians.
Yeah, the clients actually find it really fun, and the staff does too. It's just it's a new, just sort of interesting way. And when you talk to veterinary technicians, if you were to give them give me your top 10 list of things that you least like doing, generally pet stool is among the top 3.
For sure.
Right.
I can vote for that. Oh my goodness. Well, let's shift into talking about how you all take care of your team, because obviously you do things that help veterinary teams. I'd love for you to tell us a bit about your operations. I know it's different than the traditional brick and mortar. And then what are some approaches that you've been using to take good care of your staff and yourselves?
We have our reference lab is here in Denver, Colorado. And our team members that work in the lab are obviously in person in the lab, but the rest of the company is completely remote. And one of the most difficult things, I think, in building a remote company is figuring out how to define your culture and how to keep that culture intact when you're not, down the hall from somebody all the time. We were just talking on a call this morning. We were kind of going through what our general meeting cadence is as a company. And we were mentioning how one of our calls where the whole team is together, sometimes we don't get a lot done because there's so many people on it. And maybe that should be more structured and have an agenda and whatnot. But then we were saying, but no, that's really where our socialization comes. And when we talk about how somebody's child is doing or what happened on the weekend or something. So we really have to make a conscious effort in our day-to-day workflow to have space for those personal relationships to thrive and develop, and to really make sure we're paying attention to the headspace that people are in. Are people in a good place of how they're looking at the business and their role in the business, and that's not easy. I'm not sure we have the answers. Maybe Dennis has the answers, but we do the best we can.
In full transparency, I was the one that was questioning the productivity of those meetings, and Nancy was the one that was saying,
"I'm not going to say that. You didn't have to."
I'll throw myself under the bus, but it's the value of having the two of us as co-founders, and also the other strong leaderships. Jen Hagnes is our CEO. She came in with our Seat Series raise, and just been a wonderful leader and passionate about culture and building a strong virtual team culture. But we're constantly, I think, keeping each other in check. I'll say too, at the lab, we were really, a lot of labs are in basements without, windowless basements. And we were really dedicated to make sure that our lab space had lots of lights and windows and glass. And it's really a lovely, lovely place to work. So it's
the nicest lab workspace in the industry. Industry also, yeah.
Yeah.
But we bring the team together. We're a young company, and we have to be careful on where we choose to spend our finances. But we a few times a year bring the whole team together for a few days to learn and plan and strategize and socialize. I think that's really important.
Yeah. And with our meetings, we're basically always on video, but you have the ability, if you need a break, because it's draining, right? Especially for the number of meetings that we do, which is a lot. Because we not only do we have strategy meetings, and tactical meetings, but working meetings, right? We're building together, and so we can have a lot of FaceTime, and that can be fatiguing, over the course of a week. And so we try on Fridays, for example, to stay off camera where we can, and but even during the week, if someone feels like they just need to be off camera because they just don't want to be on camera, then that's okay. But our normal culture is to be on camera so that, we can read body language and, look each other in the eyes.
Our Fridays are actually on everyone's calendar titled Mental Health Fridays. So we don't schedule meetings unless we have to, unless they're mission critical, and you have the option to be off camera.
It's amazing how much of a difference these things make. It's cumulative, how much these little tiny, seemingly small acts add up.
Yeah.
And I really like how you're attempting to have the virtual water cooler, so to speak, that people can gather around and just have that time to talk. When we're in an efficiency mode, especially, smaller companies and startups, there tends to be a lot of focus on, we got to get going and be productive. We got to be quick and nimble, and that the culture can kind of fall by the wayside. And I think it's really what I love about your model is that you're building it as you go. So it's part of the foundation of your company rather than an afterthought. Yeah.
Right.
Wonderful. I'd like to, as we're coming down the home stretch, hear about what's on the horizon for MySimplePetLab. if you can share.
I'll say that I can't speak to the exact innovations, but there are innovations. We'll bring more test and care products to market. I guess I could say that next up for us from a testing standpoint will be urines. Complete urine tests for dogs and complete urine tests for cats. We do a lot of research in the background and present at national veterinary conferences. And because we're generating data as well and insights into ways in which testing from home can be most credible, and how we can get these samples to labs from the home environment in the best possible ways. So we've got that upcoming. I don't know, Nancy, would you share anything else?
We are a mix of animal health and retail, and we kind of blur the lines between those two channels. And I would say in the coming 12 months, probably 75% of our business will come from animal health and about 25% from retail. So you'll be hearing about some new partnerships in both those channels in the coming months. And then we're always, like Dennis said, we're always conducting research in the background, largely on sample transport, because that's new. That's what we do. That's groundbreaking. And that leads to additional test types moving forward. But the tangible one we can disclose in today's podcast is the full UA that's coming out.
Wow, that's so exciting. I could definitely have used that a couple months ago for one of my cats. Everything was fine, though, which is good news. But yeah, that would have been very convenient. So for those who are listening today, I want to ask if I were in the position of being a clinic owner, I'm a DVM that owns my own clinic. What's the process of getting in touch with you? And how does that, can you just lay out a little bit of how it looks for us to work together?
Yeah, a simple reach out either just from our website at hello@MySimplePetLab.com, or we have a chat box. It's very very easy, and we have some pretty simple training and implementation approach on the animal health side, and there's a variety of ways to work with us, but most commonly how veterinarians start working with us is a recheck journey. That's a very sort of simple, easy one where the recheck test is just being sent home with treatment off of ear treatment or skin treatment or GI diarrhea treatment. So very easy, and it's we do a lot of implementations, and like I said, it's not only convenient for the clients, but it's low stress for the pets, of course, and it reduces workload on the veterinary team, and it's completely integrated into the business model of the veterinarian. So they charge for that in any way that they choose, and margins are for them are very similar to what they would get off of running those tests through a regular reference lab.
Great, very helpful. Okay. So for anybody else listening today, are there any other channels that they should go through to find out more about you or connect with you?
I think they're welcome to email us directly. I'm Nancy at MySimplePetLab. And Dennis, what's your email?
I'm Dennis.Chmiel, Chmiel, at MySimplePetLab.com. Yeah, by all means, we'd love talking to other colleagues in the profession. So
Nancy at MySimplePetLab's way easier.
They'll probably email Nancy, I have a feeling. And also, your website is a great place to find more information. For those of us who are interested in watching your progression, I'll be watching as you develop more cat products too. I'm really excited about that. And I just really have appreciated having you two on today. Thank you so much for your time and sharing this very innovative process with us.
Thank you. I love your podcast. Love what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us and for all you're doing to support our profession.
Oh, thanks so much, guys.
Hi, everybody. I am back.
I just got home today, and in my mailbox, I had 2 packages from MySimplePetLab. So I wanted to show you the 2 products that they sent to me, just to give you an idea of what you could expect if you were ordering from them, either as a pet parent or as a veterinary professional that's thinking of working with MySimplePetLab. So the first one they sent me is a routine stool cat test, and this is for diarrhea and tummy troubles. And it comes in a condensed little package that when I open the package up, very well packaged. I'd say it's simple to read and understand are the instructions for how to use this test. So I have gloves, I have a sample tube to put the stool sample in, and then a package to mail this back, postage already paid. There's also a QR code to activate this online and a little pamphlet in there that gives the instructions about how to collect the sample. So that is extremely easy. Easy to understand, and nice that I could do this from home if I didn't want to take my cat into the vet for this testing. The next item that they sent over is a first aid kit for dogs. It is lovely. It is a purple package that is similar to like a travel pack. It's very compact, and on the packaging on the outside, it lists all the different things that this first aid kit can cover, and I'll just name a few. So to stop bleeding, has a wound cleanse, a wound shield, antihistamines, gauze, pads, and wraps, thermometer tweezers, and a variety of other things. It says that it's appropriate for dogs 5 pounds and up and 6 months and over. And then once I open the packet up, you can see there is a very handy first aid care guide and explains how to use all the different things that come inside of this kit. It's extremely handy, definitely comforting to have on hand. And if something happens, I have some of these resources right here in my cupboard. So MySimplePetLab, I really appreciate you sending these out. It's great to get my hands on them and really see your work in action. I think it's a great product for pet parents like me, as well as veterinary professionals that want to help support their clients and patients. So thanks again, guys, for sending this out. And I encourage anybody listening to just go on their website, browse around, and see if it's something that might help you too.
Thank you for joining me today. I hope that you feel stoked after listening to this episode. And as always, I would love to hear your comments and feedback. Is there a topic that you want to know more about? Please let me know. And thank you again for subscribing and sharing your favorite episodes with others. It really means a lot.